Welcome back to part 4 of the PowerShell introduction training. So far, we had a look at what is PowerShell, then variables, loops, pipelining, and conditions. Now, we go ahead to a very important and advanced topic called functions. What are functions? Functions help us to achieve a certain functionality. It is an interface between you, that is the user, and the code. The logic is hidden, but from the name you can get an idea of what the function does. We can write large number of lines of code and just put them in a function name. So in PowerShell, functions can be written very easily starting from version 3. Let's go ahead and have a look at that straight away. What you see here is the integrated scripting environment of the PowerShell. Let's get started to create a new function. Press Ctrl J and choose Commandlet Advanced Function. As simple as that, the function is created by default. If you want to create a good function with the description, so this is a simple function template. Synopsis telling the short description, description telling the long description, example of how to use this commandlet, another example of how to use this commandlet using the dot example. And the function is of the format verb hyphen noun, and the parameter starts with param followed by the parameters. And you can make the parameters mandatory as shown here by choosing the mandatory equal to true attribute, and many other properties can be set. So this is a very good example of how to get started with functions with a function template. And you can even put your try-catch blocks inside this function. Let's try to write a simple function without this template. So to write a function, all you have to do is type the keyword function followed by the function name. Let's try get name and open and close brackets. Within the curly braces, you type your lines of code. Let's say welcome Annie. Now the function is written. To compile the function, just simply save the PS1 file and execute, or else select all and just run it. Now the function is completed. Now how to call the function? You merely call the function by the function name. In this case, the function name is getName. I call the function getName and the message is displayed. The next step is to call the function by the parameters. Suppose I want to call the name by the username parameter. I would pass the parameter in two ways. One is directly within the brackets and I say welcome dollar username. And now let me just compile this again. And the next time I call this, I call with the parameter Annie. Now it says welcome Annie, but the only difference we have passed a parameter. Let's try a very good example of a speak text example where you use the parameters inside and rather than outside using the keyword param, and you pass dollar username. Now let's just run this. This function merely speeds up the text you write. In PowerShell, you can happily return the values of the result using the return keyword variable. So in this example, you see you're just merely adding the two numbers of two parameters $A and $B. It's already compiled. Let's just try to run this command and store the result in a variable. And now if I display the result of the variable, it shows the answers of 1 plus 2, that is 3. Now there's an interesting parameter of type switch. That is, if you pass the parameter, you can do the action. And if you do not pass that, no action is taken. In this example, we just write a simple function named switchOn, where we pass the parameters, we put the switch in square brackets indicating that's a switch parameter. And if that $A is available, we print on, otherwise we take no action. Let's try this. First, we'll call merely the function without any parameters. No output. Now, let's just call with the parameters. -a. That is, as you type, it will just display. If you type tab, it will print the switch parameter a, and now the output on is displayed. To view all the built-in functions, you merely type dir function : and press enter. So if you see, it has our own functions as well as some of the built-in functions. For example, new GUID, new temporary file, get verb, get name, and many other functions. And to very important concept is, since it's run on top of .NET, you might want to import some of the .NET functions. So let's take the example of a math function. So all you have to do is put the .NET function name inside the square brackets and then put two colons. And if you press tab, you'll get the methods and the properties. In our example, let's take the case of system.math of tab. I press and I get E. One more tab, pi, and it displays the pi. Let's keep pressing tab and see if there's any interesting function we come across. So let's try max of power of 2 comma 2. So 2 to the power 2 is 4. Let's try another example. Let's try to load a function named system.console. So all you have to do is, in the square brackets, you type reflection.assembly, and after the two colons, you write load with partial name. Do not use load or any other function because it will mostly fail. Otherwise, you have to specify the full name of the assembly. So always use load with partial name followed by system.console. This is the example we are using. Let's try now to call the method of system.console, and I press tab. Let me try to call the method right console. Let's try the right line. Good. So right line, you are brilliant. And now I close it and it prints the text. We have called an external .NET function right line from the system.console namespace. Another important way to call an external module is using import -module -name. The name, for example, it might be DNS client. To view all the modules, you merely type get -module. Another very important commandlet is the snap-ins. For example, add -ps snap-in. So for example, a very good tool called SharePoint, we use the command add snap-in Microsoft.SharePoint.PowerShell to load the PowerShell snap-in for SharePoint. Now press, of course, here it will not work. So this snap-in is also like loading an external assembly, just as you do the include stdio.h and C programming. Now let's go to the slide and do a summary of what we have seen so far. So if you are in a live project and you directly want to start with the function, and most of the times you do not want to go through a theory, just press Ctrl J and it gives a template of a very good function along with the synopsis, description, example templates. So that is one way of typing a function. Now let's go to the basics of function. A function is an interface between user and the code. How to create a function using the keyword function followed by the function name, and within the curly braces you type your code. And next, parameters. Sometimes you might want to pass the parameters. There are two ways. You can merely pass the parameters within the function parenthesis or within the curly braces using the keyword param. And so there are some predefined functions. And suppose you want to return the value of a function, you have to use the return keyword. And you might want to pass parameters or specific data types. For that, you need to really type them using the int or string keyword within the square brackets. And switch parameter is a special type of parameter which indicates that in its presence you can do some command. If in its absence, you need not do anything. So for function template, we have to use Ctrl J. Let's go ahead with that. So for the short description, let's just type a simple description that display name, and long description is display name of your name of you. Example, we'll just use the name, we'll just give the function name as display name, and this is how we'll be calling, either as display name or we will use display name display hyphen name space one parameter any, and in the function display name we just use display hyphen name, and we'll just remove all the, we can have this if needed, and for the param 1 we'll just leave it as it is. Param 2 we will remove the param 2, and in the begin we write write hyphen host welcome, and if the parameter is there it will display param 1. Now let's just compile this. Now, more than executing this command, when I type help display name, it displays the description and the examples which you have given and not was. So this is like creating your own commandlets. So merely when we call the function display name, it will print the text as per. If we try Annie, it will welcome Annie. Without a parameter also, well, it will, since it's a compulsory parameter, it has to print a parameter. Now let's go back to the slide and continue. So next is the concept of function call by value and call by reference. We'll merely, I'll just show you the demo of the code of passing the function by value and passing the function by reference. So I'll replace this code here. So this is a simple example of call by value. We are just merely displaying the original value of the $original, and after calling by value we display the value of $A as well as the call by value of original. Let's see what happens. So it is displaying original value is 10, and of course we are passing 10, so 10 into 10 is 100, and we display $A, that is 100. Now after call by value, original value, let's see, that is 10. It has not changed. Now we call by reference, that is we use the keyword ref in the square brackets and pass that value, and we do, and to pass the value you have to use $A dot value of passing by reference is equal to 10 into 10. And now if you call the same function, let's see what happens. The value is 100, but what happens to the original value? Let's see. The original value has changed to 100. So in call by reference, the original value of the variable also is updated. So that is call by value and call by reference. That is an advanced concept. And this is the final section of functions where we learned how to load an external assembly. It is simple yet very important. Always you have to use reflection.assembly followed by load with partial name. Otherwise it will fail. You might have to pass the entire path. And you can call any of the methods. For example, in this example, we are calling the method writeLine from system.console library. And another example is how to add a enum type or structure type using add type and the path we give, either whichever data type. And next way to call is using add snap-in, and we give in the DLL. For example, Microsoft.SharePoint.PowerShell for SharePoint. To list all the functions, you use dir function colon. And another way to import modules is using import hyphen module. You can also write your own module and save them as .psm1 file. So there are lots of system functions, and some of the functions we have seen today are system.math, which are very cool and interesting to look at. There are also audio related functions from system. So the reference has been taken from Microsoft Virtual Academy. Please have a look at the Jumpstart tutorials. That is the 1-point reference. You may have a look at it any number of times. And of course, the Microsoft references also. So this completes the part 4 of the introduction to PowerShell. Thank you.